If you think you know the stories behind America's most infamous prisons, think again. What you're about to hear will make you question everything. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on the terrifying truth behind one of the deadliest places in the United States. This is the story of San Quentin. The rain fell in sheets, blurring the lights of the prison beyond the barbed wire. A police car screeched to a halt near the entrance, tires skidding over the damp pavement as officers scrambled out of the vehicle. They ran toward the front gates of San Quentin, their heavy boots echoing in the night air. The clock read 2:13 a.m., the witching hour when all of San Quentin's worst nightmares seemed to come alive. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The usual muffled sounds of the prison were replaced by an eerie silence. The guards had been preparing for this moment for hours. A riot had broken out. Prisoners had overtaken one of the blocks, and it wasn't just any block, it was the death row block. Inside San Quentin, death row was more than just a place where the condemned awaited their fate. It was a breeding ground for the most violent men in California. There, inmates lived on the edge of madness, where fear and aggression coiled tighter than the steel bars surrounding them. But tonight, it wasn't just about the violence. It was something worse, something darker. Inmate Notorious 3772, known as the Beast, was a living legend within the prison walls. He was the reason San Quentin had become infamous. Years ago, he had murdered 5 people in cold blood, each crime more gruesome than the last. But his most terrifying attribute wasn't his body count. It was his mind. He had manipulated and outwitted every guard, every warden, and every inmate who crossed his path. His reputation was enough to send a chill down anyone's spine. Hughes knelt beside the body, her eyes scanning for any clues. That's when she noticed something on the ground next to him, a piece of paper. It was stained with blood, but the message was still legible. The beast is free, and so is the darkness. Her stomach twisted. The message wasn't just a warning, it was a declaration. The beast was out, and there was no telling what havoc he would wreak on the already fractured prison system. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from the direction of the death row block. The inmates were screaming, the sound almost like an animalistic roar. There was no mistaking it. Something had snapped. The riot was no longer about control. It was about survival. And in the chaos, the one thing no one could control was fear. As Hughes made her way toward the chaos, she could hear the sound of shuffling footsteps behind her. She spun around, her gun raised, but it was only a fellow officer, breathing heavily, his face pale with terror. The beast. He's got allies inside. He's not alone, the officer said, his voice shaking. We've been hearing whispers for months. There's something bigger at play here. This is more than just a riot. A cold chill ran down Hughes's spine. She knew this wasn't going to be like any case she had ever worked before. The beast was playing a game, and they were all his pawns. Just then, another officer burst into the hallway shouting, "The doors to the yard are open! They've breached the perimeter!" Hughes's heart sank. If the prisoners made it to the yard, there was no telling how far this riot could spread. San Quentin wasn't just a prison, it was a fortress. And now, it was falling apart. The beast was free. But who was really pulling the strings? The answer to that question would change everything. The chaos inside San Quentin had escalated beyond anyone's worst nightmare. Hughes had no choice but to push for. The ground trembled as the walls shook, sending a cloud of dust into the air. A fire had broken out in one of the side wings, and the prisoners, in a frenzy, rushed toward the chaos. Hughes was momentarily blinded by the smoke and dust, but she pushed through. She had to find the beast. She had to stop him before he could escape the prison for good. She followed him, moving through the burning halls, her mind racing. The situation was rapidly deteriorating. She could hear the screams of the other inmates echoing in the distance, their voices twisted with rage and fear. This wasn't just a riot anymore. It was something far more insidious, something worse than anyone had anticipated. As she approached the main yard, The tension in the air grew unbearable. The yard was filled with inmates, hundreds of them, each one fueled by the violence that had taken over. Some had gathered around a barricade chanting, while others were looting, fighting, and destroying anything in their path. In the center of it all was the beast, standing tall, watching with cold, calculating eyes. He had orchestrated this. He had turned San Quentin into a war zone. But Hughes had a nagging feeling that there was something bigger at play, something she hadn't yet uncovered. She couldn't shake the thought that the beast wasn't just trying to escape. He was trying to expose something. He was trying to break the system. "Why?" she called out, her voice barely audible over the chaos. "What do you want from me? From all of us?" The beast turned slowly, his eyes narrowing. "You don't get it, do you?" he asked. "You're a part of this, detective. You always have been. You think the system works? You think the walls of this place protect anyone? You're all just pawns in a game that's been rigged from the start." Before Hughes could respond, an officer rushed toward her, pulling her away from the chaos. "Detective, we've got to move. It's getting worse. The yard's been breached. They've taken over the entire perimeter." Hughes's heart pounded in her chest. She had to act fast. She couldn't let the beast and his followers escape, but as she looked back, she saw something that made her blood run cold. The beast was standing at the edge of the yard, a smirk on his face. He was waiting for something. And as the prison walls continued to crumble under the pressure of the riot, Hughes realized with a sickening certainty that the worst was yet to come. In the distance, she heard the sirens. But they were too far away. The damage had already been done. San Quentin wasn't just a prison anymore. It was a symbol of everything that was wrong with the system. And the beast was its king. Suddenly, she was struck by a horrifying thought. What if this riot was never about escape? What if it was about something far more dangerous? The answer, she realized, was right in front of her. The beast wasn't just trying to break free. He was trying to break them, the guards, the system, everyone who believed they could control what was happening behind these walls. The truth was far more twisted than she had ever imagined. Hughes didn't have much time. She had to stop the beast before he could expose the prison's darkest secret. But as the inmates charged toward the gates, she realized that, perhaps, the beast was just a symptom of a much larger disease. And just like that, the walls of San Quentin, the walls that had stood for over a century, began to crumble. Not from the outside in, but from the inside out. They thought they had contained the situation. But as Detective Hughes learned, the truth about San Quentin was far more dangerous than they ever realized. The beast may have been caught, but the secrets inside the walls of the prison weren't finished yet. What happens next? Hit subscribe, like, and comment below. You won't want to miss it.